The world is a rapidly changing place, even amid one of the most difficult times human beings have ever witnessed. To that end, there are megaprojects being undertaken in numerous locations around the globe meant to improve the standard of living or simply make things easier, though that hardly means all of them get to be successful. There are plenty of projects lying around which have cost billions that never deliver the expected results, some with next to no results at all. It just goes to show that even the best thought out plans don't always come through. In this video, we take a look at 5 of the most useless megaprojects in the world right now, starting with one of the most remarkable pieces of infrastructure ever attempted, the Interstate H3. Also known as the John A. Burns Freeway, the H3 on the Hawaiian island of Oahu is considered to be a masterpiece by many, yet plenty of the natives reckon it's useless. The H3 remains one of the most expensive interstate highways ever constructed, costing around $80 million a mile, a whopping $1.3 billion in total as it spans 16.56 miles. The construction of the highway was proposed in 1960 on the back of a planning period, but didn't get started until the late 80s and didn't open until 1997 as the proposal was met with vehement opposition resulting from environmental concerns and legal challenges. To be fair, it's quite a sight to behold and passes through some of the most breathtaking natural pieces of landscape one could dream of seeing, and it has even drawn comparisons to locations in Star Wars movies and other films. It also cuts travel time for persons looking to cross the island, but lots of Hawaiians refuse to use it as they believe it's cursed due to the fact that its construction led to the destruction of several religious sites. The original plan, though, was to have it pass through another valley, not the Halawa, but that would have prompted the removal of an important historical stone bearing ancient petroglyphs. It's also thought to be useless because the main reason for having it built isn't all that relevant anymore. The H3 was constructed in order to connect the Pearl Harbor Naval Base on the west of the island to the Marine Corps Air Station on the eastern end, but those considerations were a concern of the 1960s and not today. It's also thought of as a road to nowhere because it does not offer a direct route to downtown Honolulu. The Ciudad Real Central Airport. This Spanish airport cost a hefty 1.2 billion euros to build, but it could be pointed to as having one of the greatest failures of the 2000s. We can't be sure why its investors thought that having an airport 220 kilometers to the south of Spain's main airport, Madrid-Barajas, was a good idea, but it didn't take them very long to see through the folly of their ways. Travelers were in no mood to make up the extra distance in order to travel, while airlines mostly kept away. Built to accommodate 2 million passengers per year, it only saw 2 airlines in the 3 years it remained open, with Ryanair and Vueling the only companies daring to provide service. All of the other companies, which had been planning to move operations therein, backtracked after Barajas completed a project that allowed it to take on 70 million passengers yearly. It didn't help that the airport was located in a bird special protection area as well as an inactive volcanic field. The Ciudad Real International Airport reopened in 2019 under new ownership, but not as an airport. It has been used as a storage facility for planes thanks to the pandemic causing a drop in business. Of course, things are picking up despite COVID-19 remaining a major concern, and it remains to be seen how long it will be able to accommodate planes. Napier Myanmar. It's one thing to build a barely used highway or airport. An entire city is a whole other level of botching, especially when it's meant to be the capital of a country. Napier is the capital of and third largest city in Myanmar, having replaced the old capital Yangon. Construction started in 2002 secretly, and while the total cost of building remains unknown, it's estimated to have set the country back around $4 to $5 billion. At least 25 construction companies were hired to see the project through, and it took 10 years to complete. Countries changing capitals is not all that new. Myanmar's military government had a few reasons for relocating. For one, Napier is more centrally located than the coastal Yangon, which lost over 100,000 people to a cyclone in 2008. Officially, the explanation for the change was based on Yangon being too congested. Napier is a state-of-the-art city replete with hotels, shopping malls, and other attractions. but the population is under 1 million, and most of the residents live in exterior suburbs which were already there before it was transformed into the capital. The lack of proper healthcare, education, and uncertainty over job opportunities have dissuaded folks from making a permanent move to Napier. Fortunately, though, that won't be the case forever, and it's expected that Myanmar's new capital will be brimming with activity in the future, given that the country's population will keep growing. It might take many, many years for Myanmar to finally have that thriving capital its leaders were looking forward to. It's really more likely to happen than not. Forest City. Once described as a massive boondoggle by an American magazine, Malaysia's Forest City simply had to be mentioned in this video. The $100 billion project gives off the feel of a utopian location and is meant to be a futuristic city boasting a thriving forest ecosystem fully powered by renewable energy. It is supposed to be made up of 4 islands, and it's hoped that it will reach completion by the year 2035, having been announced as a 20-year undertaking in 2006. Though it's being sold as an energy-efficient city that's also ecologically sensitive and near pollution-free, Forest City has already caused irreparable damage because of the reclamation of coastal wetlands. We can't fail to mention that shortly after their construction, cracks showed up in roads, hotel buildings, and other areas. As it encouraged business from Chinese investors, the completed parts of the project quickly fell under Chinese dominance, prompting Malaysian Prime Minister Najib Razak to ban foreigners from purchasing property. There were also a number of accusations of corruption during several stages of construction. The pandemic had a huge impact as well. Due to travel restrictions, it cut sales by 90%. Some of the residents have moved back to their countries following the passing of Malaysia's movement control order, and one of the main objectives, a direct link to Singapore, suffered as there was limited travel between the two countries. Singapore has already been linked to Forest City via a bridge that shortened travel time to and from to only 20 minutes. The order, however, made it difficult for those who had livelihoods on the other side of the bridge and needed to travel back and forth very often. Unlike the aforementioned Napier, Forest City has very little hope of ever becoming the city its creators envisioned. Yucca Mountain Nuclear Waste Repository. This mega project is reported to have already eaten up $17 billion, although it's been in the works since 1978 when America's Department of Energy began research in order to determine whether Nevada's Yucca Mountain would make a suitable repository for nuclear waste. There have been many hoops to jump through, and there's still no conclusive word on what's going to happen with the repository. But last year, President Joe Biden announced it was not in his administration's plans. That's after former President Barack Obama promised to stop funding the project and was informed that he had no authority to do so by the Nuclear Regulatory Commission many years ago. Approval for the repository didn't come until 2002 under the Bush administration, but federal funding stopped in 2011 under Obama, although things picked up again thereafter. It would be great to have a place to store nuclear waste, considering how dire things could become if it isn't packed away properly. The US doesn't have a long-term storage facility for its radioactive waste, and currently dumps it 2,150 feet below the waste isolation pilot plant in New Mexico. Nevada residents and their representatives provided stiff opposition to the nuclear waste being stored at Yucca Mountain, and the planned repository may never come to fruition. As you might have noticed, there is still hope for some of these mega projects to flourish, in spite of everything standing in their way. Which one do you think has the best chance of producing the intended results in the future? Let us know in the comments.